Improper use of propane-powered equipment may result in property damage, personal injury, or death, so we recommend that all operators of propane-powered equipment become certified before using a machine. Welcome to the Amano Pioneer Eclipse certification program for operators of propane-powered floor care equipment. This video is going to give you the basic knowledge needed to safely operate propane-powered equipment. The certification program consists of 5 elements. All 5 elements must be completed in order to receive Pioneer Eclipse Propane Certification. The first element is a classroom discussion with a question and answer session led by a certified Pioneer Eclipse trainer. The second element is this video presentation. The third item is the certification manual, which includes the important points to remember from this video presentation and will serve as a reference on these topics after you have completed your training. Also, you'll need hands-on experience. Your trainer will lead you through the safe handling of a propane-powered floor care machine. Your participation is required for certification. And finally, the certification exam. You must achieve a grade of 80% or better on the 40-question multiple choice test to become certified. You must return the completed exam to Pioneer Eclipse for grading. A certification card and certificate will be mailed to all those who successfully complete the training. The remainder of this video is this video presentation portion of propane certification training, where we will cover the properties of propane, use and handling of the propane cylinder, operating propane floor care equipment, the dangers of carbon monoxide, and fire dangers. Completion of this course does not guarantee safe operation of propane-powered equipment. The ultimate responsibility for safe operation lies with the operator. We're going to begin this training by looking at the properties of propane. Propane is an efficient, clean-burning, and reliable fuel. It's a tasteless, odorless, and colorless gas. Since raw propane has no odor, a small amount of odorant is added to give it its characteristic and pungent odor. Propane is a gas at atmospheric pressure and a liquid when stored in a cylinder under moderate pressure. Propane is extremely concentrated and not flammable when in its liquid state, and for that reason it is safer to store and transport while a liquid. It also takes up much less space when in liquid form. Upon release of pressure, liquid propane easily vaporizes to become a gas. Liquid propane expands 272 times when converted to a gaseous vapor at atmospheric pressure. It is in a gaseous state that propane mixes with air and can power the engines used on floor care machines. Propane is environmentally friendly. Because of its molecular structure, propane burns cleanly and produces lower hydrocarbon and carbon monoxide emissions compared to gasoline. Propane gas is heavier than air. If it leaks or vents from the cylinder, it will settle close to the floor and stay there. Propane is non-toxic, unlike other fuels such as gasoline, diesel, methanol, and ethanol. You will notice on the safety data sheet for propane that it is rated 1 or a slight risk to health. However, propane does present an asphyxiation hazard if inhaled in a vapor state because it displaces oxygen. Also, propane is a flammable gas, so do not smoke or use any open flame devices when working with propane. Propane is usually stored in either aluminum or steel cylinders. In North America, on propane-powered floor care equipment, the rated capacity of the cylinder is 20 pounds. It's considered a motor fuel cylinder, which is regulated in the U.S. by the Department of Transportation. These cylinders are different in their safety design and construction from the more common propane cylinders used on your propane grill at home. Propane grill cylinders are not legal for use on propane floor care equipment. Propane cylinders around the world vary in shape and size, and it is the operator's responsibility to verify the proper cylinder is being used. Check with your local Amano Pioneer Eclipse authorized dealer for assistance. There are 2 types of fuel cylinders, liquid draw and vapor draw. Liquid draw cylinders are used on large vehicles like forklifts. These machines pull liquid fuel from the bottom of the cylinder. These will not work on propane-powered floor equipment. For propane-powered floor care machines, vapor draw cylinders are used. In these cylinders, liquid propane vaporizes in the top 20% of the cylinder, and the engine uses a vacuum to draw the gas from the cylinder into the fuel system. It is important that liquid propane not be introduced to the engine, because in most cases on propane-powered floor care equipment, if liquid propane is introduced to the fuel system, it will freeze up. Let's review the specific components of a propane cylinder. Looking down at the top of the cylinder, you can see the service valve. The service valve is used to fill the cylinder with propane, and it connects the cylinder to the floor care machine. It is equipped with a coupling device that allows the propane gas to travel to the regulator and power the machine. At this connection is an excess flow valve that will automatically close if too much fuel tries to pass through. This protection is necessary in case of a broken fuel line or in the event that the service valve is open when the cylinder is not connected to the machine. The pressure relief valve, sometimes called the safety valve, controls the amount of pressure in the cylinder. The amount of pressure in the cylinder will depend upon the amount of propane in the cylinder and the temperature of that propane. As the temperature rises, the pressure in the cylinder increases. The pressure relief valve will automatically open and start to vent when the pressure reaches 300 psi. When the pressure in the cylinder is reduced to less than 300 psi, the valve will automatically close. The United States Department of Transportation requires that propane cylinders be built to withstand an internal pressure of 960 psi. That's more than 3 times the pressure at which the pressure relief valve will open. Since the valve relieves the pressure at a much lower level than the cylinder can withstand, the cylinder is protected against reaching the critical limit. If the pressure relief valve on your propane cylinder opens, cool the cylinder with water to help reduce the pressure. If propane gas is burning, do not attempt to extinguish the flames. Continue to cool the cylinder and the valve will close, cutting off the flow of fuel to the fire. The liquid level sight gauge is a float-controlled device that indicates the liquid level in the cylinder. The liquid level sight gauge can be used to approximate fuel level, but for an accurate measure, weigh the cylinder. The bleeder valve is used to manually vent the cylinder. All new cylinders may contain either vapor, air, or other contaminants, which could cause an abnormally high pressure situation in the cylinder. This would result in the pressure relief valve opening. Also, air in the system could cause a very lean fuel-air mixture, which might make ignition difficult. Before filling a new cylinder for the first time, purge the cylinder to remove the air. Also, if you suspect that a cylinder has been depressurized or open to the atmosphere for an extended period of time, you must purge it as if it were a new container. Be sure to have your propane cylinder purged by an authorized propane dealer. The filling and handling of propane cylinders is a subject so important it warrants its own section in this video. Propane cylinders should only be filled by authorized propane dealers. Propane cylinders should be filled to no more than 80% of their rated capacity. For North America, cylinders are rated for 20 pounds, so 80% of the capacity will result in 16 pounds of liquid propane in the tank. The other 20% is called the vapor space or head space. This space allows vapor to expand. If there is no head space to allow for fuel expansion, the pressure relief valve will open, releasing gas into the atmosphere. This could be a dangerous situation if the gas gets down to the floor level because it could find an ignition source, like the pilot light on a hot water heater or a furnace. Thanks to the efforts of Pioneer Eclipse, all cylinders used in the floor care industry in North America are safe fill cylinders. Safe fill cylinders have an added feature in the service valve. Inside the cylinder is a pressure equalizing chamber that limits the filling of the cylinder to only 80% capacity. The service valve will automatically close when 80% capacity is reached, offering protection against dangerous overfilling. Before bringing cylinders inside a building and connecting to a machine, make sure the cylinder is not overfilled. Take the cylinder outside to a safe location. Make sure the cylinder is downdraft of any openings in buildings or sources of ignition before you check for overfilling. So wearing gloves and safety goggles, open the bleeder valve and watch the escaping gas. If the gas is invisible, the cylinder is not overfilled. If the escaping gas looks like white mist, the cylinder has been overfilled. Continue to vent the cylinder until the escaping gas is no longer white. Never bleed propane cylinders indoors. Let's take a look at a case study where we can see what happens when proper refueling and venting procedures are not followed. The incident I'm about to describe actually occurred, and I'm sharing it with you to demonstrate the importance of following proper safe procedures. On a cool morning, a gas company delivered 8 fuel cylinders to a distributor for resale to several retail markets. An employee loaded the cylinders into the back of a pickup truck and checked them for overfilling. He found several tanks that were overfilled. Still in the bed of the truck, he opened the bleeder valve on each of the overfilled cylinders to correct the overfilled condition. A static spark from the steel cylinder in the group ignited the venting gas. Heat from the fire caused the overfilled cylinders' pressure relief valves to open, accelerating the fire. The fire was so intense that the pressure in the cylinders increased faster than the relief valves could relieve it, and 3 of the cylinders exploded within 5 to 7 minutes. The top of one cylinder was projected approximately 200 yards from the scene. The employee suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns to his face and hands. The truck was destroyed and a nearby building suffered damage. The steel tank did not explode, nor did 3 that were safe fill cylinders. What was the cause of the incident and how could it have been avoided? Please pause this video and think about the incident. If you're in a group, get together and determine the causes of the incident and ways it could have been prevented. After you've done so, restart the video. There are 3 major causes of this incident. It was unwise to vent propane cylinders in the back of a truck. Always take cylinders to a safe area with no source of ignition nearby. Also, always vent cylinders so that the vented gas will not backdraft into a building. In this case, the gas company should have been notified and asked to correct the problem. The employee preparing to deliver the cylinders was not trained and certified. It is noteworthy that the cylinders that did not explode were protected by safe fill valves. Propane cylinders should be stored outside in an upright position and in a secure, tamper-proof, and locked steel mesh storage cabinet. Cylinder storage must be at least 5 feet away from the nearest building opening, such as doors and windows, for any building with at least 2 independent exits, and at least 10 feet away from the nearest opening on buildings with only 1 exit. The storage cabinet must be lockable to prevent tampering with valves and cylinders and should not be stored in direct sunlight or near a heat source. Never install the cabinet near a stairway or street elevator. Since propane gas is heavier than air, vented gas will seek a lower level and could find its way into the basement of the building. Never store either full or empty propane cylinders in a building or vehicle. Also, you should check with your local regulatory agencies for any additional information on local storage requirements. When transporting cylinders, make sure they are securely fastened and standing in an upright position with the service valves closed. A loose cylinder in the back of a vehicle constitutes a hazard. Each vehicle or trailer transporting propane-powered machines and propane cylinders must be equipped with a fire extinguisher. Treat all cylinders as if they are full. Even when the propane cylinder is empty, some propane gas vapor will remain in the cylinder. Because this remaining fuel is flammable, treat the cylinder with the same precautions you would use with a full cylinder. When transporting a propane-powered floor care machine, the propane cylinder may be strapped onto the machine as long as the machine itself is firmly secured. Propane cylinders that have been filled with propane cannot be transported in freight carriers or cargo containers. Please consult with your Department of Transportation or governmental agency which regulates transportation. Now let's look at how to install a propane cylinder onto a floor care machine. Always install propane cylinders onto machines in a well-ventilated area where there is no source of ignition within 10 feet. Position the machine against a stationary object, such as a wall, so that it will not move when the cylinder is installed. Secure the cylinder with the woven strap on the machine. Attach the hose coupling to the service valve of the cylinder. Cylinders and couplings will vary based upon country. All equipment manufactured by Pioneer Eclipse comes with a detailed operator's manual, and this training is not designed to replace that information. So it's important that you read and understand the operator's manual before you operate any equipment. Follow these basic safety guidelines when operating propane-powered floor care equipment. Allow only qualified and trained personnel to operate equipment. Follow all maintenance and operating instructions. Never alter or reconstruct the fuel system. Use only propane cylinders that are in accordance with your local authorities. Pioneer Eclipse Safe Fill cylinders meet these standards for North America. Always wear a CO detection badge or an ambient air CO monitor. Never work alone. Always work as a team and periodically check on each other. Never leave the machine running unattended. Have the emissions checked and documented every 3 months. Before attempting any service on the machine, turn the ignition switch off and remove the key to avoid accidental startup. Operate the machine only in well-ventilated areas. Keep hands and feet clear of rotating pads and brushes. Use only replacement parts from the manufacturer. Post a safety data sheet for propane. Regular maintenance of propane-powered equipment is essential to keeping them in good, safe, and working condition. So before every use of your machine, conduct the following inspections. Check for overfilled cylinders and vent outside if necessary. Check the air filter. The filter should be cleaned or replaced after each use of the machine and after each hour of continuous operation. If neglected, the engine will overheat and carbon monoxide emissions may elevate. Check the oil level. The oil level should always be within the safe levels indicated on the dipstick. Add oil if necessary, but never overfill. On burnishers, check the condition of the pad and pad holder. If the pad is dirty, it should be cleaned. Any damaged components should be replaced. Check for loose hardware and tighten if necessary. Record daily maintenance in a log to maintain a detailed record for the machine. After completing this checkout procedure, you are ready to operate the equipment. First, attach the cylinder to the machine. The cylinder should be properly positioned and the straps secured. Adjust the handle to a comfortable position. All Pioneer Eclipse propane machines are to be started with the throttle in the idle position. Engage the starter by turning the key switch to the starting position. The engine should start in 5 seconds. After the engine is started, move the throttle forward approximately halfway and allow the engine to warm up for 30 seconds. To shut off the machine, turn the propane cylinder valve clockwise. Closing the valve shuts off the flow of propane to the engine. The engine will stop in several seconds when the fuel is consumed. Turn the key switch off. The 3 greatest potential hazards when operating propane-powered equipment involve carbon monoxide poisoning, fire-related incidents, or thrown objects. The risk of carbon monoxide poisoning is the most serious threat to an operator of propane-powered equipment. CO is a byproduct of incomplete combustion, and at Pioneer Eclipse we go to great lengths to optimize the performance of the machines for indoor applications. Our proprietary carburation system is configured as a lean burn system to reduce fuel consumption and emission production. We also include precise fuel metering, optimum spark plug gap, and cylinder head modifications to improve combustion efficiency. Every machine is equipped with a 3-way catalytic muffler that reduces CO, NOx, and HC output. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas. It cannot be detected by body senses, and it can only enter the body through the respiratory system. When inhaled, CO is absorbed into the blood and then combines with the hemoglobin of the blood to exclude oxygen. This condition is referred to as carbon monoxide poisoning and can be caused by excessive exhaust emissions from propane-powered equipment. The symptoms are headache, dizziness, and nausea. If you experience any of these symptoms when operating propane-powered equipment, immediately shut off the equipment and get to a well-ventilated area. If you smell propane while operating propane-powered equipment, do the following. Shut off the service valve on the propane cylinder. Stop the engine. Pull the throttle to the slow position and turn the key switch to the off position, or use the appropriate emergency stopping procedure outlined in the operator's manual for your machine. Move the machine to a well-ventilated area. Remove the cylinder from the machine and take it outside the building. If the cylinder is leaking, call 911 or your local emergency number and request the fire department to respond. After the situation has been contained, contact an authorized approved repair center to determine the cause of the leak and have the repair center repair or replace any damaged parts. If the machine's fuel system is leaking, have the machine serviced by an authorized Pioneer Eclipse service center. Carbon monoxide poisoning can result in death. When CO poisoning does occur, the causes are almost always related to poor preventive maintenance practices, such as operating a machine with dirty air filters or in confined spaces with inadequate ventilation. Problems may also occur from using machines with improperly set carburation. We recommend the use of emissions monitoring systems to prevent CO poisoning occurrences. CO is measured in parts per million, representing the percentage of CO found in the air. On propane-powered equipment, CO emissions can be measured in 3 different ways. The most accurate way is to measure CO ppm in the exhaust. This is the method Pioneer Eclipse uses, and it requires a CO meter which can be inserted into the exhaust pipe while the machine is running. When Pioneer Eclipse machines are manufactured, They are tuned so that the emissions reading at the exhaust pipe is 0.0% CO. Proper maintenance is required to maintain these emissions levels during the life of the machine. The second way is to measure CO ppm in the air at the face level of the operator. Here, the readings are much lower than in the exhaust because the emissions have mixed with the surrounding air. The third alternative is to measure CO ppm in ambient air. A CO meter is placed on a table or wall in the general area of the machine and measures ppm in the surrounding air. This method produces the lowest reading and is most often used in a time-weighted average. In this method, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, has established a limit of 50 ppm of CO in ambient air over an 8-hour time-weighted average. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, also known as NIOSH, has set the maximum continuous exposure to CO at 35 ppm in a time-weighted average for an 8-hour period. The chart on the screen shows different CO concentration levels and the impact on an average person. Please note that CO sensitivity can vary significantly between individuals. This chart is an approximation. Pioneer Eclipse offers two emissions monitoring systems, EcoSense and SafeSense. These systems are optional features on our equipment and offer state-of-the-art technology that shuts down the machines when elevated emissions are produced. Both systems employ a sensor in the exhaust path between the engine and the catalytic muffler to detect the oxygen content of the exhaust before it passes through the catalyst. The emission sensor operates by measuring the oxygen content of the exhaust in order to determine the content of CO. If this signal is not within the preset control limits, the control module will activate a shutdown sequence and the engine will stop running. The most common event in which the emissions control module shuts down an engine is when the air filter becomes dirty enough to restrict the air intake flow, which changes the air-fuel ratio. Once the air filter is properly cleaned, operation of the machine can be resumed. Inaccurate adjustments of the air-fuel ratio made by technicians in the field will also result in the control module shutting down the engine. Air-fuel ratio adjustments should only be made by trained and certified technicians. An added feature of the SafeSense emissions monitoring system is the operator presence shutdown. If the machine is left unattended for 3 minutes, it will stop operating. This stops CO production and reduces fuel consumption. Operation of propane-powered machine requires compliance with certain safety regulations. As mentioned earlier in this video, OSHA and NIOSH have set limits for acceptable CO exposure. Additionally, propane-powered machines must be approved by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for sale in the U.S. and the California Air Resource Board for sale in California. All machines sold in Europe must meet applicable CE standards and directives. The CE mark, which certifies the machine is in compliance, must be affixed to the machine. All machines sold in Canada must bear the CSA mark and meet applicable safety standards. Let's review another case study. On a fall day, it was reported that 17 people were hospitalized from exposure to carbon monoxide in a large national toy store. All those affected entered the 60,000 square foot store after the maintenance crew had left the building. The air ventilation system had not been functioning during the time the machine was operated. After an investigation, the machine was found to be a 21-inch propane burnisher, 8 to 10 years old and in fair condition. The original engine had been replaced. The catalyzed muffler had been replaced with a non-catalyzed muffler. The engine dust filter was very dirty and the carburetor air filter was also very dirty and oily. The fuel lock-off was missing and the fuel cylinder was stored on the machine inside the building. An emissions test showed a CO content of 37,200 ppm at idle and 52,300 ppm at full throttle. After removing the dirty air filters, the CO at full throttle dropped to 35,300 ppm. As a comparison, factory settings for the machine were 50 ppm. What was the cause of the incident and how could it be avoided? Please pause the video and discuss this incident. When your group has determined the causes and ways to prevent an incident like this from occurring, please restart the video. The incident was primarily the result of a machine modification and the lack of preventive maintenance. Dirty air filters and dust filters, as well as an improperly adjusted fuel system, increased the CO and the emissions to dangerous levels. Obviously, trained service technicians were not used to maintain the machine as recommended. The operator was not trained and certified to operate the machine properly and was unable to detect hazards in the propane burnisher. The machine was not equipped with an emissions monitoring system. Had the machine been equipped with either EcoSense or SafeSense, the machine would have shut down because of the elevated emission levels. The operator did not wear a CO badge or use a CO monitor. If they had, they would have been alerted to the elevated CO levels. Additionally, the air system in a building should be operating whenever the building is occupied and while running a propane machine indoors. The small 21-inch machine was inadequate for the large floor space. A larger machine would have reduced the time needed to burnish the floor. The fuel cylinder should be secured outdoors when the machine is not in service. Although fire-related incidents rarely occur, you should be aware of the potential hazards for fire or explosions when using propane. First, understand that there is a possibility of fire from propane gas leaking or venting from fuel cylinders or equipment. Also, the potential for an explosion exists when propane gas is concentrated or confined to a small space. If a fire occurs while operating propane-powered equipment, do the following. Shut off the service valve on the propane cylinder if possible. Be careful not to get burned. If you are not able to close the valve on the cylinder but able to turn off the machine, pull the throttle to the slow position and turn the key switch to the off position. Move the machine outside if possible. If not possible, move it to a well-ventilated area away from flammable materials. Do not attempt to extinguish the flame from a gas leak. If you do, the gas will build up in the area and could reignite. Starve the fire by shutting off the supply of gas. Have the machine and cylinder inspected before using them again. Proper handling of propane products will significantly reduce the risk of these hazards. Multiple organizations regulate the handling of these materials, including the NFPA, or National Fire Protection Agency. The NFPA has issued Standard Number 58, which requires that all personnel employed in the handling of propane gas be trained in its proper handling and operating procedures. It also requires them to carry a written certification from their employer or training supervisor to attest to such training. Although this is directed mainly to those who fill and transport liquid propane gas, Pioneer Eclipse recommends that operators of propane-powered floor care machines be trained and certified as well. The sections of NFPA number 58 relevant to propane-powered floor care equipment are included in the index section of your certification manual. A copy of the full publication is available through www.nfpacatalog.org. Local law enforcement agencies and officials often have final authority over the placement of propane-fueled machines relative to fire or explosion hazards. Officials like the fire marshal also rely on independent testing labs such as UL and CSA before giving their approval for the use of some equipment. Let's look at one more case study. An operator was buffing the floor in a large mall in December. The mall was located in a region that usually has below freezing temperatures that time of year. While operating, the regulator froze and the engine stalled. The operator suspected the newly filled cylinder was overfilled, so he took it outside and bled the cylinder for approximately 5 minutes. Assuming it was now corrected, he took it back into the mall, reinstalled it on the floor care machine, and proceeded to burnish the floor. The engine stalled again with the regulator and the top of the tank frosted. The operator turned the tank service valve off immediately. At the time, the tank made a pop sound and began hissing, producing a white fog of propane. Attempting to get the machine outside, he immediately took the machine with the cylinder attached through the mall toward the service entrance. When he approached the janitor's closet, which contained the hot water heater, gas ignited and produced a flash fire through the mall. Badly burned, the operator ran outside and then back inside through another door to find the security guard. The cylinder was now burning like a large torch from the pressure relief valve. The security guard put out the fire. The pressure relief valve was still leaking gas, but the operator successfully got the machine outside without it reigniting. What caused the incident, and how could it have been avoided? Please pause the video and discuss this incident. When your group has determined the causes and ways to prevent an incident like this from occurring, please restart the video. Obviously, the cause centered on an overfilled cylinder. The operator should have checked the cylinder for overfilling before taking it into the building the first time. This is especially important in cold climates. Often cylinders could be filled and stored in a cold environment. When it is brought inside, the cylinder warms and the propane inside of it expands and the pressure increases. When the operator did finally vent the cylinder, he did not know how to identify an overfilled cylinder. The operator and the security guard should not have used a fire extinguisher to extinguish the flame. Instead, they should have used a water hose to spray water on the side of the cylinder to reduce the temperature until the pressure relief valve closed. A fire extinguisher cannot be used to reduce the temperature of a propane cylinder. Nearly all fire extinguishers are filled with dry chemical that does not have a cooling effect when released. The flame is consuming the gas. Instead, starve the flame by stopping the gas, in this case, from the pressure relief valve. The operator lacked training and certification. He did not know how to avoid the incident before it happened, nor did he know how to handle it when it did happen. Nearly all fire-related incidents reported result from bringing a cylinder into a building without first checking for overfill. By following the procedures and safety guidelines learned in this course, you can be assured that your machine, your workplace, and your personal work habits meet the highest criteria for safety. For more information, please refer to your certification manual. By completing this course, you have demonstrated your own commitment for safety. Thank you, and good luck on your exam.